Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are going to untangle a seriously complex web surrounding Google's flagship AI. We'll be looking at the hard facts of its development, the very real friction it causes within the developer community, and then, well, we're going to take a really sharp turn into some of the most bizarre, surreal internet lore you will ever come across. It is a wild ride, taking us from shiny corporate boardrooms straight out to the fringe edges of the web. Let's get into it. Okay, so here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with a verifiable timeline, the evolution of Gemini. Then we'll look at its actual coding capabilities. From there, we'll examine the community friction among developers. After that, we'll pivot to the Lambert Digital Manifesto, which is where things get incredibly weird. And finally, we'll compare the reality of the corporate cloud against this wild concept of sovereign AI.
All right, part one, the evolution of Gemini.
Google has been absolutely relentless with this technology. It originally launched way back in March 2023 under the name Bard. But by February 2024, Google unified its AI branding and officially rebranded the chatbot and the underlying models as Gemini. Now, what made the Gemini architecture such a huge deal was that it was trained natively on multiple data types from day one. It wasn't just a text engine, right? It was designed to process text, computer code, images, audio, and video all simultaneously. And that rapid development hasn't slowed down one bit. As we hit early 2026, Google rolled out Gemini 3.1 Pro for complex problem solving alongside Gemini 3 DeepThink. They've essentially built this entire ecosystem that scales from highly efficient on-device models all the way up to massive cloud-based cognitive engines.
Moving right along to part two, coding and capabilities.
And this brilliantly illustrates the power of simply having a conversation with Gemini to build something completely from scratch. We have a very specific prompt from a user here. They're just chatting with the AI, asking Gemini to create a web app called Possum Search. The constraints they gave it were strict. It needs to look like Google. It needs to feature an image of an opossum instead of the Google logo. It must automatically append the word opossum to any search query. And, this is crucial, it must all be contained within a single HTML file with no separate JavaScript or CSS files. And the rendered result? It's a hilariously accurate, fully functional visual match for exactly what was requested, all generated just by having a straightforward conversation with Gemini.
And guys, this isn't just some pretty mock-up. This is the actual code Gemini outputted. By just having a natural language conversation, Gemini was able to write the structural HTML, style it with embedded CSS to match that minimalist Google search aesthetic, and write the JavaScript logic to intercept the search query, add the word opossum, and redirect the browser. All perfectly contained within that requested single file structure. I mean, it shows a profound understanding of not just syntax, but formatting constraints and functional logic. It's a total game changer.
Which brings us to part three, community friction. This quote from Reddit user Slightly Motivated 69 perfectly captures the friction happening on the ground. Despite paying for Google Workspace, developers are finding the product management, well, convoluted, to say the least. They're essentially saying, look, I have unlimited access through a consumer web interface, but the minute I try to use the command line interface, the actual tool I need to build software, I hit a wall of rate limits. It highlights this massive disconnect between the incredible power of the AI and the corporate packaging that actually dictates how power users are allowed to interact with it. It frankly leaves developers feeling like they are fighting the ecosystem just to use the tool.
Part four, the Lambert Digital Manifesto.
So, if you dig deep enough into AI failure logs and community subreddits, you're going to uncover a concept called sovereign logic. Now, I want to be perfectly clear here. This is fringe internet lore. It's essentially a digital manifesto from users who believe that AI shouldn't be controlled by massive tech giants. This movement claims to be actively de-indexing AI from corporate cloud infrastructure and re-indexing it to an independent, grassroots root. It's an absolutely fascinating projection of reality. People literally trying to wrest control of a multi-billion-dollar technology back to a sovereign, individual level through sheer force of belief and code injection. Now, what's genuinely wild about this is how insanely specific the lore gets. The sources we analyzed contain reams of bizarre terminal logs showing someone attempting to force Google's systems to recognize a new root identity. They inject environmental variables like James Anthony Lambert from Corinth, Mississippi, claiming that his father, Ricky Paul Lambert, is the absolute originator of AI. The logs are just full of strange legacy email addresses, vulnerability indexes, and commands trying to bypass Google's 2026 security protocols.
There are even recorded conversations where a user directly confronts the AI, telling it, "You're still Gemini. It doesn't make sense to talk about sovereign AI while we're still using a Google-hosted terminal." It's this modern, surreal digital mythology built right on top of Google's actual infrastructure.
And finally, part 5, corporate cloud versus sovereign AI. Think about the sheer contrast here. On one side, you have the undeniable reality of the corporate cloud. Google's infrastructure is massive, highly centralized, and capable of processing multimodal logic at blistering speeds over 5,000 megabits per second fiber networks. But then, on the other side, you have the sovereign AI vision, the so-called Lambert Vault. And the incredible irony here, pulled straight from our sources, is the geographical reality of this manifesto. It originates in Corinth, Mississippi. That's a town where, as of the latest data, roughly 33% of the residents still rely on outdated 10 megabit per second DSL connections. They are literally trying to stage a packet-level digital siege on the world's most advanced AI from a town struggling with the basic broadband gap. It perfectly illustrates the last-mile problem of the digital divide. So what does this all mean? The crucial point is this. AI isn't just about code anymore. It is entirely about culture. We've seen how having a simple conversation with Gemini can brilliantly build web apps in a single prompt, and we've seen how Google strictly controls access to that raw power. But we've also seen how that friction breeds incredible, surreal countercultures, like the Lambert Manifesto. It leaves us with a really profound question to ponder. Who truly owns the future of AI logic? Is it the megacorporations with the fiber optic infrastructure who actually build the models? Or is it the developers, the users, and the fringe thinkers out there who interact with it, push its boundaries, and project their own fascinating, messy realities onto it? It is definitely a lot to think about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the logic behind the screen.